Team FYN Sports and Johnny's New York Style Pizza proudly presents the Pickens Power Half Hour. It is Dragon Talk right here on Team FYN Sports. We appreciate you guys being with us right here, and it is a victory week for the Pickens Dragons inside the Jim Lock Fieldhouse. Again, the Dragons a big winner on Friday night over Northwest Whitfield, a huge ball game in Region 6 4A, and we're going to talk about it here in this first segment. As always, my co-host RJ Casey wearing the Pickens green here tonight appropriately. All right. Yep. As always, Coach Nelson is with us, as always. And, of course, we've got an assistant coach here tonight, Coach Jordan Shaw, who, of course, is very familiar with the Pickens program, obviously played here as alumni who's come back as well. And we've got some players with us here in the first segment, Zach Tedderton and also Grayson Bradford returning to the show. He's a repeat offender, so he is back with us, and we certainly appreciate all these guys being here with us. Coach Jeff Nelson, obviously big win on Friday night, to say the least, as far as the region standings go. When you look right now, there's 4 teams in Region 6 with 1 loss. You guys are right there with them. You handed Northwest Whitfield a loss on Friday night. Talk about that ball game. 35-10, man, really a complete ball game in all phases.
Well, that's what we had really worked on all week. That's what we've been talking with the kids about for the entire season, is playing 4 quarters of football and a mistake-free football. And I thought for the first time on all 3 phases, we were clicking, and the kids just seemed to feed off each other, and we seemed to get stronger as the game went on.
Right, and it's one of those games where when you look at it coming into the game, obviously Northwest was, skill position wise. I mean, they'd had a lot of success already early in the season. We knew that it might take a complete football game for you guys to get over that hump. But as much as we're going to talk about the offense, especially in the first segment with Zach and with Grayson in here, defensively, I felt like it was probably your best game, all year long, shutting them down.
Yeah, I think so. We game planned for them real well. We felt like we knew what they were going to do, and we had a good game plan going into the week. We worked on it the Sunday before, and coaches implemented it all week, and the kids, really bought in. And I think when everything clicks like that, you kind of feel that way, early in the game that things are, what the kids saw on film, what they practice on the field is what they're seeing in the game, and when they feel like that and they have that confidence, that, sometimes the kids just break out and they start playing, kind of over their head a little bit. And I felt like that defensively we were really getting after it.
There you go. I want to thank all the folks at Johnny's New York Style Pizza here in Jasper, again, providing our players and coaches and even the host with a pregame meal here tonight, a pre-show meal, I guess, if you will. And we appreciate all those folks. Also, our friends at Pepsi for providing us our beverages here tonight. We definitely appreciate that. RJ, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well.
On Friday night, man, you had the best view, I guess, right?
Yeah,
of this thing,
yeah.
So.
They played pretty well, as Coach said. Pretty much that was their best game in all 3 phases, the special teams, defense, and offense. Offensively, not throwing the ball at all that whole game, just running the ball and just working it down the field and really just taking it to Northwest all night and got a big win.
Right. As we see kind of in the highlights, as we talk about some of the things that happened, and as you said, RJ, again, it was pretty much all done on the ground on Friday night. Jared Whitmore opening the scoring with a 39-yard touchdown run. He would add 2 more scores on the night. No passes in this ball game. 4 complete quarters. And, Coach, I want to talk about that. Obviously, offensively, when you look at the stat sheet, you guys have been effective throwing the football, but on Friday night, you really didn't have to. I mean, you guys were running with success. O-line was getting a great push.
Well, when you got an O-line that's got the experience that our kids have, they're good size, and when they come off the ball like they did Friday night, you just get behind them. I might could have run for 4 or 5 yards.
Right.
So they were really clearing out opening up holes, and it was. I just thought they played their best game.
Sure. Was that kind of part of the game plan coming in? I mean, obviously you don't go into that saying we're not going to throw a pass, but I mean, with the way the game I guess was being dictated, and you didn't necessarily have to do that, but did you feel like going in you could run on them?
Well, just by what we looked at on film and all, we felt like we had some opportunities there. And honestly, as you game plan, you certainly don't game plan not to pass.
Right.
But as the game unfolded, we felt like we just stay with what was working, and that helps your defense as well when you're moving the ball methodically down the field. The defense is resting. It gives them a chance to go in there, and what we preach on defense is 3 and out. And the offense was really a big hand in that by moving the ball down. And I don't know that there were any plays really over about 12, 14 yards. Outside of one big run.
Sure.
Other than that, we just kind of moved, in small clips and stayed offensively. We stayed ahead of the sticks all night, and I think when you do that, it helps, all 3 phases.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk. RJ's going to give us his Sports Writer Player of the Week here in just a moment. And speaking of, and I guess I'll tease it a little bit without giving it away, but we're looking on the defensive side of the ball this week. And speaking of, we've got Coach Jordan Shaw with us, who's also, he handles the DBs. And you had to be proud of your guys. I mean, the way that they performed, on Friday night, not just, your guys, but the entire defense as a whole, but especially in the back end.
Yes, we played great. We got off to a hot start offensively, and that kind of transitioned to the defense. Those guys have been getting better every week.
Right.
And those guys started out game 1, not a lot of them a lot of experience, but now late in the season you can tell they've got some reps, and we've had some guys step up with some injuries.
Right.
So even better. We're getting better every week, starting to read our keys a little bit better. Starting to see things faster, so it's been great.
I remember years ago there was a guy here that played in the defensive backfield, looked a lot like you, that was pretty superb, and so I think obviously you being able to share your experience, how neat is it to be able to come back, and I know you've been here for a little while, but to be able to share your experiences, but to be able to share them with your guys as an alum, and talking about the tradition of the program as a whole.
I definitely take a lot of pride in coming back here. So it's a little different when you've played here, obviously, and you're coming back. Same with Coach Wigg and Coach Hunters as well. So that plays a factor, but I'm just trying to bring to the table for defense backs, what I've learned over the years, and they respond well with these kids we got. There's never an issue of not playing hard. They're trying to do what they're asked. So it's great to have those type of kids for sure.
Absolutely. And, of course, we've got our players here. We'll kind of go offense with the players here a little bit. We've got Zach Tedderton, a wide receiver, and also we've got Grayson Bradford at the end of the table down there, O-line, and do-it-all guy, I guess, as well. But, Zach, let's start with you. I mean, obviously on Friday night, big ball game, huge win over a Northwest Whitfield team that kind of came in at the top of the standings, but now you guys are right there with them after that win. Talk about the game plan going in and the way that you guys were able to execute.
Well, as my role, I either run a route or I block. And Friday night I had to block, so did the best I could.
Yeah. But you're one of those guys that doesn't mind getting dirty, though, right? I mean, you getting in there blocking, doing all the dirty work,
Yes,
That's what it's all about,
Yes,
so. Yeah. What talk about? I mean, obviously, that's one thing when you think of receivers. You think about running routes and pass catch and all those things. But what a lot of people don't see is the way that you guys are mixing it up, throwing those blocks down the field, especially on those longer runs and things that happen. A lot of times you guys are the ones that are springing that big block. I mean, what's the technique there, and what's the thought process as you get set to kind of break down and block somebody?
For me, I let them pick a side, then I push them out to that side, and usually the running back reads it pretty good. It's usually a big play.
Absolutely, especially with your running backs being able to make that read for sure. Grayson, what about you up front? I mean, we heard from Zach as far as the edge goes, but what about inside, man? What are you guys looking at in there?
Well, usually the D-line gets off the ball pretty well. Me being a bigger guy, I need to get off the ball, but not as quickly, so I just stand there and, like Zach said, I let them pick a side and I push them to whichever side they choose.
There we go. Good. And you're back here for the second time, man. You're like a pro now.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, you're a rookie on the last show. Now you're a veteran, so you can teach all these other guys what it's like, right? So, Zach, did he give you any pointers tonight before you came
He
on?
always gives me pointers.
That's awesome. That's good. Okay, I'm glad to know that Grayson's doing his job. So, Dragons again with a big win, as we talked about, 35-10. We talked with Coach Nelson. Obviously, defense playing probably their best game all year long, and I know that you've preached the four full quarters as we talked about earlier. It was a great thing to see, and I know RJ, from your perspective, it was awesome from the sideline. And that brings us to our Team FYN Sports Writer Player of the Week. Drum roll. We'll let you have it.
I went with defensive lineman Cy Chadwick. He had a great game on Friday. Got in the backfield on several tackles, and he's one of those guys, like we said with Alex last week, he's a disruptor in that backfield and getting in tackles, running down running backs, quarterbacks, what have you. And he's also a big energy guy. They've got several energy guys on that defensive front that pick each other up, whether they have a big play or they let up maybe a bigger play. They're like, hey, don't get down on yourself. You got the next play. Let's go. And he's one of those guys, and I really, really admire that about him and the defense.
So we go defense this week, man. I like it, especially with the way the defense played. Speaking of, we'll have a couple of those guys that you're talking about in the next segment coming on with us right here on the Pickens Power Half Hour Dragon Talk with you right here as we talked about at Pickens High School inside the Jim Locke Fieldhouse just beyond Dragon Stadium. We appreciate you guys being with us as always. Always fun talking about a victory and Coach, Northwest, as we know, traditionally is a team that everybody, struggles with. I mean, you and I were talking before the show about your times at other places, and Northwest being in the region, they're always a tough win. So you know that when you beat a Bruin team, you've got a quality win there just because traditionally what they bring year in and year out.
That's right. The coaching staff does a good job. They always have tough, hard-nosed players, and so when you go, you've got to, you have your A game going. And I felt like, from the first snap, our kids were ready to roll, and we're really excited. They were excited all week. You could tell in practice, and that's what you have to play Northwest, because they are a tough team.
Sure, absolutely. We do want to thank all of our Team FYN Sports sponsors, and be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We do appreciate you guys being with us, and we want to let you guys know that we're very active on social media. You can follow the Dragons on Friday nights. RJ's down the sideline, social media, man. We're throwing stuff out there, letting you know how the games are going on. Guys, thanks for being with us. Of course, we're going to keep the coaches in here with us, but you guys down in the end will swap out, and you'll get to make fun of these other guys that are sitting off camera right now. But Zach, congratulations. Great ball game on Friday night. Grayson, the same. Real quick, because we are going to talk a little bit about Ridgeland in the next segment, but I want to get your thoughts before we go to the break. How about that ball game? I'm moving on. Do you feel like this game on Friday night gives you guys a little momentum now going into that Ridgeland game?
Yes, sir. I think it does, and I think we'll play like we did last Friday, and I think it'll be a win.
Absolutely. Grayson, how about you?
It's going to be a tough game. I can't really say if we're going to come out victorious or not. We just have to wait and see who comes out on top.
Yeah, right. You don't want to give them any bulletin board material in case you're watching, right? So that's that's what it's all about. So thank you guys, of course, for being with us. And we're going to talk a little bit, as we said, about Ridgeland. Coach Shaw, real quick, DB wise, game plan any different going into this week?
A little different. I mean, they've shown a couple different offenses, so we prepared for both all week, or multiple, I should say. But nothing we haven't seen before. We've seen some wing tee stuff. We've seen some spread stuff. So nothing we haven't seen. So
right.
Should be all right.
Cool. And we'll talk about that a little bit more on the other side of the break as well. Again, you are watching the Pickens Power Half Hour. It is Dragon Talk presented by Team FYN Sports and Johnny's New York Style Pizza here in Jasper. We appreciate all those folks being on board with us, providing our meal here tonight for our players and coaches and all of our guests. And speaking of, we've got Lonnie behind the controls here tonight. We brought in the big guns tonight from Fetcher News, and so we appreciate him being here as well. We're going to go ahead and take a quick time out. When we return, we'll bring in some other players, and we'll talk about this week's matchup against Ridgeland, all that and more straight ahead on this week's Dragon Talk.
Truck Month at Dave's Chevrolet in Jasper, and we're giving you a payload of savings. Now save up to $13,000 off new Silverado Crew Cab LT, and with Dave's Payment Vacation, make no payments for 90 days. Or save up to $7,400 off new 2018 Chevy Equinox. It's Truck Month in the mountains. See Dave's Chevrolet in Jasper today, the North Georgia Mountains #1 volume Chevy dealer.
Better days ahead, Dave's Chevrolet.
Find new roads.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and Ellen, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
Hi everyone, Dave Garner here. You might know me as a regular contributor to Team FYN Sports and the Instant Replay, but did you know I'm also your local Woodman Life representative? My job is to make sure that families are protected through needs-based life insurance and retirement. I want to make sure that you leave your loved ones with memories, not expenses. Call me today to find out how I can help you to not outlive your money and that your money outlives you. Woodman Life, standing strong for generations.
And welcome back to this week's Dragon Talk. It's the Pickens Power Half Hour right here, just beyond Dragon Stadium, down here in the Jim Lock Fieldhouse, as we join our players and coaches and my co-host, RJ Casey, who, of course, was celebrating just like the Dragons were on Friday night after a huge region win over Northwest Whitfield, 35-10. And now we turn our attention to this week's ball game against Ridgeland, coming in at just 3-4 overall, but 2-1 of the region. And, Coach, I'll start with you. I mean, obviously, they're one of those teams that even though they have 4 losses, you look at their 4 losses, Calhoun, Troup County, Sandy Creek, and then, of course, Northwest Whitfield, who, obviously played them a very good ball game. They're coming off a 42-20 win over Lafayette. But this is a Ridgeland team you and I were talking about. Very good skill position players, always seems to be that way. Mm-hmm. What kind of challenges do they pose this week?
Well, they got a lot of speed on the outside. And they have switched on, as we talked about earlier, I think before the show, they have switched and gone to several different offenses. So to prepare for, you can't prepare for one, but for several, and that does pose a problem because sometimes read keys are different based on the offense that you're running. And so, those things can be a problem. And they do have several good skilled players, 3, 6, 16 to name just a couple, and they can really move. If they get on the outside, get to your second level, you're going to have problems with them. So.
Right. And going back to that point, we were talking before the break with Coach Shaw. I mean, what kind of challenges does that pose for you guys having to prepare for so many different looks? It's got to be a little bit challenging in practice, this week with these guys getting them ready.
It does, and it has a lot to do with the read keys. Like we're saying, those can change somewhat depending on what scheme we're running on defense, because we'll change it up as well. But they watch a lot of film, and we get a lot of reps in practice. Some of these guys are playing one side of the ball, so that's extra reps for them. So
absolutely.
That definitely helps.
That helps for sure. So, again, the Dragons, and we've got with us now a couple of those defensive linemen. We've got Dallas McHale with us and also Daniel Parms at the end of the table there in the yellow. And, I like now the first guys, they had some black and green on, but you guys, I like that y'all kind of bucked the trend a little bit. Y'all went with something different. You're going for style points, I guess, right? We were joking around, a couple weeks ago the guys had the blazers on, and it was all business. But you guys, you look all business down there, though, still, even without the blazers. So I like that. But Dallas, let's start with you. I mean, defensive line. I know you didn't get a chance to talk about Northwest because that was the first segment, but I want to give you a chance right now. Talk about that ball game, what you guys were able to accomplish. How did you guys shut them down, man? They were a pretty explosive team coming in.
In the beginning, they drove it down the field, and we didn't put our heads down. We kept on driving on with the mission, and we eventually turned up with some huge stops. I think the very next run or series, they only got 3 points. And just huge tackles in the backfield, sacks. Our DBs were amazing during the Northwest game. They shut down everything. I don't know how many passing yards they had, but it must not have been a lot.
Right. Yeah. Now you're not just saying that because you're sitting next to the DB.
No, I was thoroughly impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about, and I'm sure Coach Shaw would agree with this too. I mean, sometimes the back end of your defense is only as good as what you guys are doing up front as far as putting pressure on the other team, and because you can't cover a guy forever. So if you guys aren't doing your job, then it can reflect, through the different levels of a defense. You guys have been getting it done up front. You did on Friday night. Turning now to a team like Ridgeland that might throw a lot of different looks at you. How do you approach that this week? Any different, or what's the game plan there?
Discipline. There's no other way you can really prepare for it. You just work hard and then just straight up discipline every play.
Right, and you got to play assignment football, and you guys have been doing that. How about Daniel? Kind of the same questions to you as well. I know that Friday. Can't go over it enough. I mean, obviously it's a victory week for the Dragons as they get a big win over Northwest, and now all of a sudden the region standings are, the way they are, man. There's everybody's, in there. You guys are right there in the hunt with everyone else, but I know you're not really worried about that. I know you guys are worried about just going 1-0 every week, and focusing on a different opponent. Even though that game now is in the rearview mirror, go back to Friday night and talk about how you guys were able to come out and play with emotion and the way you guys were able to have success.
I think just being fired up and doing your job is a big part of it.
Mm-hmm. And then with Ridgeland this week, you guys have to go on the road. That's a long road trip.
Yeah.
But, and you'll have to drive it too, I guess, right, RJ? Are you? Yeah.
I'm passenger side, yeah.
There you go. Okay. All right. So you'll be making that trip as well. Talk about that, going on the road, playing a team like Ridgeland that has a lot of good skill position players. I mean, what do you look for in that ball game? What do you think the keys are to victory there?
I think what Dallas said, being disciplined is going to be a big part of it, doing your job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many? You've been in the backfield a lot, I guess, this year, right? It seems like you guys kind of make a living back there. That TFL in the book, the tackles for loss, that's been a big part of the Dragons' success defensively, and you guys were able to do that again the other night there. And obviously, when you look at Ridgeland and their losses, I mean, they're all pretty quality, opponents that they've played. So it's definitely going to be a tough test for the Dragons on Friday night, but certainly a game they hope to go up and continue to look good in the region because, we're getting to that point now, as we know, where, as far as the playoffs go, these are the games that count. And so it should be a lot of fun. So I want to encourage all the Dragon faithful out there to make that trip. I know it's a long trip, but hopefully the weather will be nice. And regardless of whether it is or not, get up the road up to Rossville and support the Dragons on Friday. It should be a lot of fun. We'll talk more about that ball game in just a moment. But now it is time for the RJ Casey question of the week, the most anticipated part of the program each and every week. So take it away.
Question this week is to the players. Dallas and Daniel, you guys are both defensive linemen. You've seen every offensive line you've played is different. We know that. What have you seen from Ridgeland's offensive line, and what challenges do you think that they pose coming into this game?
What I've seen is they're slower, but they are bigger than Northwest O-line. Everything's going to be very quick because of the wing T. And they're just another O-line.
Daniel?
I think that you're just going to have to read your keys and do what your coach to do.
All right. I like it. Sounds like these guys, coach, know what to expect, and it looks like they're focused. And they it's obvious that even though we're Tuesday, we're kind of early in the practice week. Looks like these guys are ready and they are prepared, hopefully, and ready to roll.
Yeah, they should have worn the Blazers. They're all business tonight.
They are, man. I like it, though, man. I like it. I like that they're all business. Speaking of business, you guys have business to take care of on Friday, and obviously there's games after that, but I know we're zeroed in on this week. And, it was certainly a big win for the Dragons to get that W over Northwest because it really puts them right back at the top of the region standings where they want to be. I know ultimately, Coach, you're focused on just 1 week at a time, but I think that you can kind of see the confidence of that win on Friday night. It seemed like what it did with these guys to know that they can go in and pretty much play with anyone in the region. I mean, it's got to be a good feeling for these guys to know that.
Yeah, I think so. even the games that we've struggled in, Heritage was a tough loss. The kids have not dropped their heads, have not, felt sorry for themselves. They came right back out, that next Monday, and we all as coaches commented on it. They were upbeat, fired up, and ready to go, and we're expecting a win. And that's the mark of this team. It's been that way the whole year, regardless of what has happened the week before. The kids are fired up and ready to go, and ready to take on the next challenge.
Right. I know Coach Shaw with the DBs and everything that you're looking at. We always talk to our DBs when we have them on the show about kind of being on that island, and it's one of those things where you're in that last level, that last line of defense. So a lot of times if those guys make a mistake, man, it's magnified. Everybody sees it, right? So there's a little bit more pressure on those guys. But what is the I guess your philosophy as a coach? What do you expect out of your guys every day when they show up, to practice or they come to play? I mean, what is that message that you're trying to get to them?
I think one thing that we've stressed with the younger guys that have started playing a lot of plays for us this year is like Monday through Thursday is just as important as Friday.
Right.
That's where we get our mental reps. That's where we get our reps we're seeing the film, all that stuff. That all comes to fruition on Friday for everybody. So we take pride in all of that.
Absolutely. And that's what it's all about. Again, each level of that defense we talked about offensively, kicking game as well. I mean, one thing we haven't really talked a lot about is special teams too much, and that doesn't tend to get a lot of attention, but seemed like really all three phases on Friday night against Northwest were working, and I know you expect the same this week against Ridgeland.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought last week we didn't have those mistakes that we'd had, even the small mistakes. We just didn't have those that the small ones turn into big ones, or that glaring mistake that keeps you on the field, or the turnover in the deep in your own zone or what have you. We blocked a field goal, and I thought that was kind of the telling moment of the game. I felt like at that point when the field goal was blocked, we still had a 3-score advantage later in the game, and I thought that was a big advantage for us, and I thought the kids, felt it, and I felt like Northwest kind of at that point tightened up a little bit because they, again, didn't get any points out of that drive. So.
Sure, absolutely. I don't want to hog the mic. RJ, you got any questions for these guys?
Well, going into this week, Ridgeland has gone back and forth with you guys the last couple of weeks, or last couple of years. You were able to beat them last year to win the region championship. Going up there to Rossville is always one of the tougher places to play in the region. What are you looking forward to in this game on Friday, everybody?
You guys want to talk first?
We'll start. When we start with Daniel down at the end of the table, we'll work our way back this way.
Yeah,
here we go.
I just think that we're gonna have to keep our heads up and go play.
Yeah.
On away games, we seem to not be doing so well. So I think this Friday we're going to have to pump everyone up, make sure everyone is ready to go, and make sure that bus ride is a fun one back home.
Sure.
I would agree with that. Also, I mean, this is what we practice for every day in the summer, lifting weights for, is to get down in this October, November, and you're playing for a region championship. So I think we just got to be ready for the challenge.
I think just like we say every week, we got to play 4 quarters of football and mistake free. And I think if we do those things, we'll give ourselves a chance. And the kids, I think we'll play hard. Just by seeing them in practices, we've been incredibly focused. Just the first 2 days. Mondays are always tough because of the walkthrough aspect, the film aspect, and there's a lot of more mental reps on Monday than there is the rest of the week. And even Monday, you could see the kids were focused. Wasn't a lot of playing around. So I think they're fired up and ready for the challenge.
Absolutely, and we are too. Again, the fans are ready. The Dragons rolling on to Rossville on Friday night to take on a 3-4 Ridgeland team, and we certainly wish them all the best. And we encourage you guys to get out there and be sure to look for this guy, RJ Casey, on the sideline on Friday night. Team FYN Sports with you here tonight, and that's basically going to wrap things up for us. We do want to remind you, follow Team FYN Sports on Twitter on Fridays for highlights and scores of the Dragons. Also, our YouTube channel, that's FYN TV. Fetch Your News playlist, Pickens Power Half Hour Dragon Talk to watch this program right here on demand. And also catch the instant replay, our sports show, live at 10:10 a.m. on Monday mornings with your host, Lauren Hunter, as she takes you through all of the local area sports live on the Team FYN Sports Facebook page. We do encourage you guys to do that. And remember, Team FYN Sports always highlighting and promoting student athletes in a positive way. I want to thank all of our guests. Again, Dallas and Daniel down at the end of the table. Of course, Zach and Grayson in our first segment. Coach Shaw, thanks for being with us, man. Good to see you.
Glad to be here.
And as always, Coach Jeff Nelson, good luck on Friday night, and we appreciate you being here. Of course, my co-host, RJ Casey, as always. I'm Dave Garner saying so long, folks. Appreciate Lonnie being here tonight as well. That's going to wrap things up. Until next week, you've been watching the Pickens Power Half Hour Dragon Talk right here as part of Team FYN Sports. So long, everyone.